Now, if you're one of those people that hears the word meditation and you're like, none of that stupid woo-woo stuff, please, like, never say that again. Or maybe you've tried it before, but you're just like, it's not for me. I've sat there for 10 minutes and I felt like I just wasted 10 minutes of my life, and now I'm never going to get that back. So I'm more productive when I'm actually doing work. I completely hear you. I completely understand you. But let me explain a story that might change your mind. About 3 years ago, I was going through a pretty rough time. My dog had just died and some other crap was going on. And one of my good friends, we were sitting on his balcony in college, and he looked over at me and he was like, "Have you ever tried meditation before?" I was like, "No." And why is this relevant to my specific situation? Why does that matter in general? Now, the reason it was relevant is because he gave the example as cars were passing by. He was like, dude, these cars that we see on this street right in front of us continually pass. They continually pass. We observe them and then they pass. And this was the same analogy that he referred to when we were thinking of our thoughts. He was like, these thoughts keep randomly popping up in your head at times, but then you give awareness, you give emotion, and you give attention to them. Especially when you're in a heightened emotion or in a state in which you're just constantly thinking negatively because something negatively just happened, you're only going to think negative thoughts. When you're only thinking negative thoughts, the emotion that comes out of that is obviously negative. And then how you perceive the world is negative. And so, with that just silly example of the cars passing by, he made me realize that I'm completely unconscious of my thoughts throughout a day-to-day basis. Meaning, I don't really know how I even got to the point of where I'm currently thinking right now. And like, where did I start thinking these thoughts, and why do I have these beliefs about myself and what I can and cannot do? The only way to know why you think the way you think is to know what you're thinking in the first place. I know that sounds stupid, but it's true. If you can't control, or if you can't understand where these thoughts are coming from or why you feel this way, then you're never going to change. In order to change or become a different individual, you need to think different thoughts. And the only way to think differently is to become aware of the thoughts that you're currently thinking. And so that's just a long rant, and that was just a long way of saying it's extremely important to focus on meditation every single day. And now, when I think of meditation, I just think of anything that brings awareness to self. Now, there's so many different variations of how you can do that. Some people focus on their breath. Some people count down from 100. Some people focus on a specific body part or an apple in their head so that the only thing that they can think of is the thing that they're thinking of. And they don't allow any other thoughts or emotions to come in, or they try not to. That's the whole point of meditation, is to try not letting those things come in. And so over time, it's kind of like exercise. You just build your mind to be able to resist these things as in these negative thoughts and emotions throughout the day to day. The biggest change that I've seen over the last 3 years of me doing this consistently is that you're just more aware throughout the day of when you start to go unconscious. Meaning, whenever you're entering a coffee shop or maybe someone just cut you off in traffic, you instantly go into this fight or flight. But how quickly can you revert and go back to baseline? That's the important part of meditation. People think that you feel this euphoric sense of just, you're like floating after a 5-minute meditation. Maybe you might feel like you are, but soon after you just go back to whatever problems or things you need to think about in the first place. And so it's a continual practice. You don't just work out once and then expect those results to stay forever. It's the same with meditation. It's a practice. You have to continuously and consistently do it. There was this kid I was mentoring a couple years ago in high school. He was in high school at the time, and I told him to try and sit down for 10 minutes and meditate. And I wanted him to do this for an entire week every single morning. And when he reported back to me, he was like, "Thomas, this is great. I feel good after the 10 minutes, but then soon after I forget about it, or I go on with the day." But I asked him, "How did you feel after you did the 10-minute meditation?" And he's like, "Well, I felt good. I felt relaxed." And I was like, "Good. Highlight that. Just stop right there." That's exactly what you need to be feeling anytime you go into this breath work or this meditation practice, because that is your baseline. That's your foundation. You have something to refer back to whenever you start to feel like shit. Because it's inevitable. You're going to feel like shit throughout the day at some point, maybe. And that's just how you know that you can go back to it. And how quickly you can go back to it is typically how much you practice meditation. And so this was just a long rant, and I just wanted to record this because I just felt like some people don't view meditation in this way. And I viewed it in such a negative way because I was just like, it's a waste of time. I don't want to sit there. Why would I do that? Blah, blah, blah. Get it out of my face. But it wasn't until I was actually experiencing pain and suffering that I realized the importance of it, especially and more importantly, when you're not going through pain and suffering. Because it's easy to be grateful when you're not suffering, but when you're suffering, it's like, oh, the world hates me and everything is going wrong. And so I hope this video helps, and let me know if you have any questions.